Hey guys, today we're looking at one of the most iconic amps of all time. This amp was so good that Stevie Ray Vaughan owned two of them, and that is of course the 1964 Fender Vibroverb. So let's go. If you're a fellow fan of Stevie Ray Vaughan like we are, you'll know just how important the Vibroverb was to Stevie Ray Vaughan's sound throughout his whole career. You can hear this amp featured so prominently on the In Session album that he did with Albert King. That chewy Vibroverb sound is just front and center and you can't escape it. So I used to actually own one of these amps 5 or 6 years back, but as I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate, I had to sell the amp to fund the purchase of a house because I couldn't live in the Vibroverb. I actually sold it to our good friend Richie from Fret Junkies. You can hear that exact unit in many of Richie's awesome videos. Now this amp really is a true powerhouse with its distinctive blackface circuit. So alongside nailing the Stevie stuff, which this amp does, and we'll talk a bit more about that later, this amp also has that classic 60s ultra clean sound that is just iconic Fender tone. So let's check out that sound now. Now to my ears at least, there's always been a bit of a chewiness to Stevie's records and his live albums, and in my opinion, after playing hundreds of vintage amps and newer ones, that only comes with the Vibroverb. There's an almost raw and grainy sound that just is not there with any other amp, but with that being said, if you push the low end a bit too much, it almost farts out and gets this sort of fuzzy sound, which you can actually hear on the In Session live album that Stevie did do with Albert King. And it's got that, yeah, sort of like farting out, speaker blowing up sound. But on the higher strings, it would retain that clarity and that iconic Fender tone. I also think this amp is one of the secrets to Stevie getting that clean and distorted sound at the same time. And that's one of the common comments that I see a lot about Stevie's tone. They're always like, how is it so distorted sounding, but also so clean at the same time? And I think that is in part due to the Vibroverb, because that's what this amp seems to do. For the best reference of that tone, you'd probably want to check out Texas Flood, the album by Stevie. So let's push the volume up to like 8 on the amp and see exactly what we're talking about. Now these amps feature a 1x15 amp configuration. This particular unit features the original, what I believe to be a factory upgraded JBL D130F speaker, and it has 40 watts of power. This amp is capable of some pretty serious volume, and it's certainly quite dense to carry because of the massive, mighty 15-inch speaker, but it's all for the tone. So one of the other main features from this period of blackface amps is of course the classic 60s lush reverb that you can get. This kind of sound just begs to be turned up, and when you do, it gets so nice and surfy. So let's check that out now. did a video with a Vibroverb amp about 5 or 6 years ago back on my personal channel, and that particular video pretty much blew up, and I've never had so many comments saying that's the closest I've got to Stevie's tone. I was actually sat there playing a jam from that In Session album that I'm talking about with Stevie and Albert King, and it's a really groovy blues song called Matchbox Blues. You guys might have heard it. So today I've pretty much reconstructed that track for a jam, and I've done the drums, the bass, the keys on it, and we're going to actually try and recreate the tones I got all those years back and try and get as close to Stevie's woody and grainy Vibroverb tone as we can. So let's get into that track now. If you guys like what you hear, please do subscribe, as it really does help us. Also, if you're a fellow Stevie nut like us, check out the Texan twang pedal that we make here in the UK, as this pedal is honestly the closest I've ever got to Stevie's tone without using like an old school Strat and a 1964 Vibroverb. This pedal really helps get you those glassy and woody nuances that we're talking about today, but without having to lug around, you know, like a massively expensive and heavy amp. So thanks again, guys. Let us know what you think to this jam in the comments here, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks again, and cheers.